Welcome to Table Talk. So we've had a little bit of technical difficulties, but we have got it all sorted. Big thank you to all our team that have been working behind the scenes. This is what I love about doing live. The fact that when you do it live, whether there's a mistake or something, it happens, and that's the beauty of it. You're going to get it raw and live from my dining room to your house, and so that's what I'm excited. But I'm excited because for tonight on Table Talk, we have special guests all the way from Hungary, from Budapest. Naomi and Glenn, they're going to be meeting with us and joining us very, very shortly. In fact, I'm really excited to have them online. And but before that, I just want to let you know that if you need prayer of any kind, maybe you're watching, you've had a hard day, or maybe you know someone who's going through some tough difficulties, we've got a prayer team, a dedicated prayer team just for you. All you've got to do is just click that button, and then we've got a team praying for you. That's if you're watching this live. So click the prayer button, and we've got a team will be praying for you privately anytime during this time, Table Talk time, as we have Naomi and Glenn. So I am pretty excited to have them. So in fact, let's invite them on all the way live from Budapest. I'd like to introduce you to Naomi and Glenn Johnston. Hello, how are you guys doing?
Hi, we're good.
Yeah, pretty good.
We're doing okay. It's about 10 o'clock in the morning here. So, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock.
9:30.
9:30. So pretty early, but yeah, no, we're doing great.
Yeah, that's early for us here in lockdown as well, 9:30 in the morning. Is it lockdown happening over there in Budapest? What's happening? What's it like in Budapest walking around with COVID?
So there's no lockdown over here at the moment. In Hungary, in general, I think over the weekend they had about 300 new cases and about 6 deaths. But yeah, there's no lockdown. They've got over half the population fully vaccinated. Full face masks are optional on public transport, so you might see one old lady on a bus with a mask on. But yeah, that's about it. That's coronavirus in Hungary at the moment.
Wow, that's it's really amazing, because like even your journey to get to Budapest and Hungary as missionaries, there's a lot of things you had to be fully vaccinated. You had all these things happening at the same time. But what was really interesting is, imagine if what's happening in New Zealand happened just before you left. You wouldn't have been able to leave. So just seeing God move during that whole time has been incredible. Would you like to share a little bit about your story, about how, like, let's start off first. Why are you in Budapest?
I ask myself that every morning. No, I actually do. It's been a pretty rough 2.5 weeks. I think we were told to expect that, though. We were told that it was going to be a tricky thing to integrate when you leave your home country, to integrate into the new country. And I think I underestimated that a little bit, but you know, I think the journey that it took us to get here, the 4 years or so that we prepared, we're not willing to come back after 3 months just because of how hard it is. And so we keep in mind the reason that we're here. And a lot of that has to do with working. We really do want to work with vulnerable people groups. And I know that there are vulnerable people groups in New Zealand, but we felt a particular calling to Eastern Europe. And so Hungary doesn't really like to call themselves Eastern Europe. They would prefer to be Central Europe. And so we're kind of on the border of Eastern Europe here. And we're trying to keep the goal in mind, which is that we do want to work to make vulnerable people less vulnerable to human trafficking or to exploitation. And we're not sure how exactly that's going to look yet. And we were told to keep that really loose, like not be super tied down to a certain image of what we thought it would look like. And that's been really valuable advice, because things, you know, when you come on the field, things are different and you've got to learn to adapt and be flexible, but keep in mind the reason why you wanted to be there and not lose that in the day-to-day living of being in a new country. And yeah, that's a very long answer to your very short question.
Actually, it is quite a very big question. So how about yourself, Glenn? So tell us how has it been?
So the journey over the last 3 years has just been I don't know, a lesson in God's perfect timing. And like you say, like if we were still in New Zealand a week ago, was it 2 weeks ago? Yeah, we wouldn't have been able to leave the country. And like little things from like getting our COVID vaccines in a timely manner, like even that was just down to God's perfect timing. And when we left the country, it was God's perfect timing because he knew in 2 weeks' time the country would be hit with another lockdown. And so I don't know, it's just like I'm a little bit slow to pick up this lesson, and looking back now, like in hindsight, it's like, oh God, yes, I should have just shut up and pushed through. But yeah, it's just been like a massive lesson in like God is just with us in whatever we do and his perfect timing, even though it doesn't make sense at the time. Looking back, you're like, wow, God was in all of this. So just in our personal journey over the last 3 years, which has taken us to get here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's incredible. I think we're all slow when it comes to God. It takes us a while. I think you're in good company there, Glenn, for that. So sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I just realized you just said something. So sorry. Let you finish.
Probably just just shut up and listen to God. I know that's pretty blunt, but I don't know. Sometimes I just need to do that myself, and so
Yeah, the timing of everything. I sort of see like God very rarely speaks to me in like a physical voice. The way that we've really understood God to be talking to us through this whole journey.
Recording in progress.
Just ignore
Wow.
that.
I feel like one of the ways that we've really felt God talking to us is in the timing of things. And that's really hard lesson to learn because it is a hindsight lesson. So you have to trust that the timing of things is going to be good. And then in hindsight, you get to understand that was God making your path very clear. So I even think if we were planning to go in 3 months' time, our vaccine or our COVID-free country status wouldn't exist anymore because we would have just been on the news for a big COVID outbreak. So there were certain ways that we sort of slid right through customs. And one of those ways was because of the reputation of our country having not had COVID for so long.
Yeah.
And so when we showed them our cards and they understood we were from New Zealand, I think it made the process a lot easier. So even if you guys shut the COVID down again, and then we were planning to leave, I think that reputation is a little shaky for the next little while, so even the timing of when exactly we went, even Mina having a breakdown at the airport, every time we hopped off a plane and jumped in a line, she would just start screaming, and she's not been like that for a very long time, but they would quickly shunt us up to the front of the line. And not just into a different line, but literally walk us past 100 or so people and then put us in front of them to wait for the line. And she did that in every line. And we didn't pinch her leg or anything. She just really started screaming out of boredom. And so I don't know, God even used that. And we just found ourselves straight through customs, no quarantine, no issues with the flights, no delays. It was all just very smooth. Yeah.
Yeah, that's incredible. It's just amazing what your kids, especially in the airport, you see it all the time, and I think it's for good reasons. Like I see mums trying to navigate all their kids there and just bring them to the front of the line, and sometimes it's actually really good. It doesn't work for us anymore because when my son has a meltdown, he's 20 years old, it doesn't actually work anymore. Just it gets another kind of attention, but
Wow.
So could you tell us, so you guys are there, you're in Hungary, you're in Budapest, and you made it there. So could you tell us a little bit about the Roma Gypsy people? Just give us a bit more understanding. Us back here in New Zealand, we don't really know much about we know, but we are quite, we do know a lot of things, but could you tell us a little bit more about the Roma
So they have an interesting reputation here in Hungary, and I think that's one of the challenges that we'll be navigating, is that we live in a country that is full of Hungarians who view these people a certain way. And as outsiders, we've come in with our understanding of who these people are, both of these people. And we've seen the Roma to be the most vulnerable people group in this country. So we're doing that all based on research. And I think we have yet to properly meet a Romani person, I think, because they don't really introduce themselves as Romani. I think if you were Hungarian, you would just know. So they have an Indian heritage, so they're a little bit darker. But honestly, when I see people, I'm just making judgment calls based on skin color. So I could see some, because tanning is a big thing here too. So we're seeing so many, they call them solariums, where people just go in and fry themselves on these sunbeds to get brown. So this was a thing in New Zealand a few years back, but it stopped because of our understanding of skin cancer or something like that. But over here, it's still fairly popular. And so you see a lot of people walking around quite dark who may not actually necessarily be naturally dark. And so you're making a lot of calls based on people's skin color about what their heritage may or may not be. So we have yet to meet a Romani person who comes out and says that they're Romani. But when you see certain people in certain demographics, you could maybe assume that they're Romani. So I don't know what it is about it. Like, there is definitely a demographic difference about the way that some of them may present themselves. I'm not sure. The other thing that we've found is that the Romani have been pushed nearly completely out of Budapest. So the rent has increased, and it's probably due to people like us who are foreigners who have enough money to pay a certain rent. And Budapest is quite an international city. And so people are coming in and paying rent for certain apartments, and the prices are slowly going up, and all of the Romani are getting pushed slowly out of the city into what they call satellite towns on the outskirts of Budapest, where the rent is lesser, and landlords don't mind having Romani, because that's another thing, is that landlords would prefer not to rent their apartments to Romani, from what we understand. Like, I might be brushing a very broad stroke here, but I feel like we're still very naive when it comes to these people, and we've got a lot to learn, and we're still very keen to get involved with them. We're just not sure how that looks just yet. So, and that might take a little while, because we don't want to go jumping in with our naive understandings of the situations. But we definitely do not want to lose the entire reason that we came, which is to work with vulnerable people. I don't want to lose that in the machine of missions, where you forget why you may forget why you first came, and we don't want to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the whole injustice. When you know that there's injustice going on, it just causes something inside. And this is why God has called you to that side of the world. And I love just hearing your story, because I've obviously spent a lot of time for you guys, and you guys know, just hearing from you guys, you aren't like, we are going to go over there as saviors, but no, you're going over there as be part of what they're doing, and see how you can help them. Is that right? Is that how you'll describe it? So you're not coming in as someone riding on the white horse, coming in to save the day, but more get alongside them in their time. Is that a good way to describe it?
Yeah, so I think a really good message that we heard from actually a speaker at Hamilton Elim, he said, like, when you go as an international missionary, you're kind of going as the scaffolding around a building. And so you're there to support the structure of the local church and the local people as they build themselves up to not only work with Hungarians, but also work with the Roma as well. And so, yeah, we're just here, as a scaffolding. Obviously, when scaffolding goes up around a building, it's just there while the building is built. It doesn't stay there forever. And so, yeah, we're not here to come on a great white horse with a whole lot of money, because in the past it is shown that people doing that creates like short-term benefit, which will just collapse when the missionaries leave or when the funds dry up. So yeah, we're just here as scaffolding for the local church and the local community as they kind of build up whatever it is that we're here to build or help build to help the vulnerable people groups.
I think one of my favorite quotes about missions has been that we're not bringing Jesus to the Romani people or to Hungary. We're supposed to come over here and look for where Jesus is already working and come alongside that. So the Spirit in us is to recognize the Spirit of God over here and what the Spirit of God is trying to do over here, and we're to move with that Spirit. We're not bringing the Spirit of God. Like the same story as when all the missionaries showed up in New Zealand and the Māori had already taken the word of God, and God had already come in a vision and shown himself to the Māori people, and they'd already gone around and spread the word of God before the missionaries got there. And so in the same way, I feel like God is already moving in Hungary, and he's already moving in the Romani people. We just have to find out where, and we have to find out how, and then just get alongside that.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. It's all about being Spirit led. And I love that. It's also going to where God is already blessing, because sometimes we think we've got to reinvent the wheel, but God's already blessing in a certain area, and it's also going to be sustainable. And I love that the analogy you used there, Glenn, about the scaffold. It's about it's take it down and it keeps going. It sounds like there might be a niche in the market for you guys as a new business, because we know about burning our skin here. So maybe there's an opportunity to have like a spray tan company starting up there. What do you guys think?
Well, great idea, Ants. Let me think on that for a while.
Be great to see Glenn all spray tanned up.
Yeah, boy, that would be a sight.
Oh dear.
Awesome. Okay, well, tell us about some of the team that you're working with. Which organization are you with? So you've been sent out from Elim, but you're part of a bigger organization. So tell us about the organization and the people that your teammates that you work with.
Well, so we're out with One Mission Society, and they consider themselves a parachurch organization. So they come alongside churches like Hamilton Elim to equip the church to better send out missionaries. So a lot of the church in New Zealand, like the newer churches, from our understanding, don't have a lot of experience. There's not a lot of missionaries heading out from the churches that we've been a part of or that we've understood. And so OMS's job is to take the heritage and the history of knowing how to send out a missionary, and they partner alongside a church to teach the church how to support the missionary or how to get the missionary out. And their job is also to look after us pastorally and to sort out our finances. So we come under a charitable organization, but that means that there are rules how we spend the money. And so their job is to teach us how to do all that within a framework that is legal, but also honorable to God. And so in New Zealand, they helped send us around the country fundraising. They also met with us weekly to gauge how we were spiritually and to figure out where our heads were at with missions. And they gave us opportunities to go on short-term trips in order to understand if we fit with the team over here and if we felt a calling to Hungary. So they played quite a big role alongside the church to get us to Hungary. And when we finally got here, the team has been great. It's hard to explain because we've been in touch. Like we came here 3 years ago for 5 weeks, and we met most of the team then. And we just really clicked with them, even though we don't really have anything in common apart from our desire to be on the missions field. And there's no one here from New Zealand. The rest of the team is American. And so we're sort of coming into a team that also hasn't had anybody from outside America join the team in a very long time. And so we're all on a learning curve as to how to understand each other culturally, even though we speak the same language, where we approach life differently. We may approach missions differently. We've yet to find that out, but there's a lot of common ground, and the team is so passionate about what they're doing, and the direction they're going in is so healthy. And I guess what we're trying to do is figure out what that is without, like, we've only been here 2.5 weeks. And so I'm trying not to become too opinionated too quickly, but also we're very aware of what we feel like called to do. And so we're trying to hold those two pieces of it together, where we want to honor the team and we want to honor the direction they're going in. And we also want to honor the calling that we have and the people that have supported us because of that calling. So yeah, I think I have nothing bad to say about the team. They've been so epic. The way that they hosted us when we first got here, and the way they've been looking after us and helping us settle in.
Like, did you just have like, did you just have like sloppy joes for dinner or something like that?
Well, I don't think, have we had much American? I don't think we've had like proper American food yet. Like a couple of them did cook us a really nice meal for the first 2 nights that already tasted foreign, but it was really delicious. But we haven't had proper American food yet. And we also probably haven't had a lot of proper Hungarian food. We've just kind of been trying to not get sick, which happens if you jump on a whole heap of new food so quickly. So we've been trying to find familiar foods at the supermarket and in the malls to try and get our digestive tract working properly on this side of the world before we start going for the traditional foods. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. And so it's really good being part of a tight team, especially like one that's so supportive, and it's great being part of that. So fully American, obviously a lot of people think you guys are American as well because they just hear English and they just assume it's American. Have you learned any like new American phrases? Because obviously there's some phrases that are different to us. And have you taught your new colleagues some Kiwi phrases?
We're still trying to get them to get the right pronunciation of sweet as.
Can you give us an example?
Yeah. We're constantly correcting them and telling them that their S needs to be a bit harder, otherwise it means something completely different. But I think a word that I thought was normal, but it isn't normal, is keen. So whenever they say, I want to go out for coffee, I'm like, keen. And you can see something sort of like, oh yeah, that's right. Like, so there's little phrases that we say like sweet as, or keen, or nah, yeah, nah. Like we sound really, when we're thinking about something like, yeah, nah. And that, I don't know, it sort of gets lost in translation a little bit, like, where are you going with this? But what are some American phrases? It's just their accent. I feel myself wanting to respond in a similar accent. Like it's so strong and so pronounced. And I just find myself almost wanting to say it back to them because it's so catchy.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm trying very hard not to like, get that big mouth kind of vowels going when I'm talking back at them. I have to be very conscious of just being Kiwi and keeping my own sound and not accidentally parroting back to them.
Yeah, I can teach you an American word that I learned when I was out on the mission field mixing in with some American missionaries, and it's a word that took me by surprise. And it's obviously when we're in higher altitude and they start talking about acclimated. And I was thinking, I'm not acclimating with anybody, but acclimation. You guys hear the word acclimation, or which is basically our version of acclimatized.
Yeah, we have heard acclimate, and yeah, we've been told that it will take a while to acclimate. So we're taking their word for it.
Yeah, it's quite funny. It's quite funny for us, but it's quite normal to them. Like to go, I'm not acclimating with anybody, but it's acclimatizing. So yeah, it's a bit, you know what I love about it? It's just a fun way of languages, and it is cool and is neat. And I love learning. I love hanging out with different people in different countries and just learning those little nuances of phrases, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, we're doing a lot of that. I feel like we're doing more of that with the Hungarian than the American.
Right.
Like Have we got, I'm trying to think if there are American phrases. I think the ones that are catchy have already made their way to the New Zealand or the Kiwi kind of phrasing. Like if you hear it on TV and it's catchy, it'll get to New Zealand anyway. So I feel like it's part of our vocabulary already, most of the stuff we're hearing.
Right. So what about some Hungarian words?
Oh, it feels weird to say it. I could say, so whenever you walk out of a supermarket, the person will wish you a good night, and then they will say thank you very much, good night. But the word is so long. I think it goes something like Kusunum sipen visont latashra.
Wow.
It means thank you very much, goodbye. Yeah. But it's such a long phrase, like to say thank you very much, goodbye. And they're like Kusunum sipen visont latashra. And you have to kind of say it at the same time as them, because by the time they finish saying it and you finish saying it, you're halfway down the road. So you've got to just kind of yell at each other as you walk past. But I think we're learning some common phrases like that just in order to, like when you go and talk to someone and you're in their country, it's very hard to not say anything in their language if you're going to maintain that you're a polite person. So we've tried to learn like hello, goodbye, thank you, sorry, excuse me. There's a lot of sorry, excuse me's happening. So yeah.
Is it on the pot?
It's Yonapot.
Yonapot.
I'm going to have to go check my kid. She's yelling at me. So I'll leave Glenn to chat for a bit, but I'll be right back.
Yeah, you got to deal with Mina.
Yonapot is a good day. And so whenever you walk into the supermarket, the security guard will be standing there and he'll just say, Yonapot. And you just, repeat it back to him as you walk past. It's just informal, casual greeting. And kusunum, thank you. See ya, which is just a casual, informal hi, hello.
Right. It's kind of like saying like, how are you? But we really don't want to know how are you. Just how are you?
Yeah, I don't really hear how are you. I haven't heard that here very much at all.
Yeah. Hodgepodge is how are you?
Hodgepodge.
Hodgepodge.
Yeah.
Hodgepodge. Hodgepodge.
Sort of. I think we're getting that slightly wrong. Like if there's Hungarians listening, I do apologize. It's probably very terrible pronunciation.
So when are you guys learning the language? You guys book them for classes, and how's that work?
We're going to book in for classes. So we had like we have this not schedule. What's it? There is a certain order we have to do things in order to kind of move along in terms of our visa. And so we're here on a 90-day visa. And so we've got return flights booked for November if things get too terrible here and Glenn decides he wants to go home. Just joking. But joking, not joking, in that first week, we were like, doing that. No, just joking. No, we're very certain we're here for a long time.
Where are you going?
I don't know where I'm going. I think there's a certain rhythm. So we're on a 3-month visa, and the way to apply for the longer visa is to have an address that you've locked into. So our first order the first thing we had to do was find an apartment where the landlord would lease it to us, and we would sign a contract that's all legal saying that we're here for a year. So you have to sign a year-long apartment lease before you have the visa to say that you could be here for a year. So it's kind of a different way of thinking about things, because in the Kiwi way of doing things, you kind of want the promise of the apartment but not signing, because if we don't get our visa, we've already signed with the landlord for a year. So it feels a little bit tricky.
Going back to your question about language school. So once we move into our apartment, we will start going to language school. Probably sit down for 6 to 9 months of language school. I'll probably have to do 6 years of language school.
It doesn't come naturally to Glenn.
Yeah.
I'm sure that being immersed in the culture, you guys will pick it up. So
that'll help eventually.
Fluently.
Yeah. So we'll get our apartment. Hopefully we'll sign the contract in the next day or two, and then Once
and then
we're
we
all
can apply for our.
settled in, then we'll be able to start language school.
Great. So tell us, you guys been there for 2.5 weeks. What's been some of your greatest struggles being there so far?
Oh, there's too many to count.
I just don't want to be that annoying foreigner when I'm out in town. Like, I just want to kind of blend in and be part of the city and not make a scene when I'm trying to do things, I guess.
Yeah, which oh, excuse us, which I think is going to be a part of our struggle long term, is that you just automatically want to fit in and get along with people, but we just look foreign. And the way that we look up at all the old buildings, I think even that makes us look foreign. Like, we're still in awe of all this stuff around us, which means we don't come from Hungary or Budapest, you know? So I think for me, my greatest struggle has been that I underestimated how difficult it would be to adjust our family to Budapest. Like, if it was just me here by myself, you know, you show up, you get used to the jet lag side of things, and then you go out and explore the city and you just go and do what you want to do. And then you add another person to that, like if it was me and Glenn, then we would get adjusted to jet lag, and then we would make decisions about what's important to the two of us, and then we would go out and explore the city and get to know it. But when there's also a child involved, like, Mina has no understanding of why we're here. She just knows, like, we've been telling her that God called us here, that God wants us here, and so that's why we're coming. And so she understands it sort of in terms of God wants us in this new country, but that's about it. And she left all her friends, and the airplane ride was 36 hours complete trip. And she just didn't settle in to the differences as quickly as, say, an adult who's made the decision to come here would. So she didn't understand why we couldn't just hop in a car and go to the shop. We had to walk, 5 minutes to the bus stop, wait for the bus, hop on a bus for 45 minutes, get off somewhere with bags, go buy the food, but it's not all the normal food she's used to eating, and then hop back on the bus. It's just, everything's different, and she couldn't understand. And there were new rules, like she's 80% louder than every Hungarian child we've ever met. And so there's just a difference in the way that we raise our kids in New Zealand to how they're raised in a big city with dirt and mess everywhere. Like, one of my funniest memories, now that we're out of harm's way, is that when we first walked into the metro station, which is a subway underneath, and it's just like, some of them are really, really clean and tidy, and some of them are really dirty. And Mina just ran her hand up the bar where everyone touches, and it's the middle of COVID, and then she licks her hand. And I'm like, why did you lick your hand? And everyone just, it was so like, oh my gosh. But she just, like, over in New Zealand, if you touch a bar in a supermarket and lick your hand, it's like, it's been sanitized 20 minutes before, probably by the cleaning lady. But this had, like, 2 years.
That's why we lick the bars all the time.
Yeah, and I don't want to even think what was happening on that, and she just has to learn all these new rules about absolutely everything. So it was very overwhelming, and she kind of didn't adjust as quickly as we thought or we had expected. And that was a huge struggle for me, because that's my whole day is gone into making sure my child feels safe. And yeah, so that was my biggest struggle. Another long answer, but yeah, I think so. Glenn's is more the language and wanting to fit in and not stick out, and mine is wanting to explore and do what I want to do, but I have responsibilities that I have to. And I want Mina to really love it here. And so we have to take our time talking her through that, and really making sure that Budapest is a good experience for her as well in her first 3 or 4 weeks. So, yeah.
That's great. So, Mina, so tell us a little bit more about Mina. So she's, you guys found a daycare. How does that work? With her, we've seen a lot of photos with Mina on Glenn's shoulders. So does that mean good work out there, Glenn?
Yeah.
I guess that was our compromise with Mina, because we went from pretty much 0 walking to like 16,000 steps a day, I think our iPhones are telling us. So for a kid, that's a lot to go from 0 to 16,000. So the way that we compromised getting around and still doing stuff was that she would ride on Glenn's shoulders most of the time. And we've slowly been weaning her off of that. Because I think in general, you don't see kids being held, like they've grown up here and they just walk everywhere. So we want her to kind of integrate also as quickly as possible. So yeah, so when I go out with her, just me, I warn her in advance that I'm not carrying her on my shoulders everywhere. And you know, that we've got to learn to adjust. And she's been very good at that the last few days. She'll come out with me and walk the whole way. And I'm trying to keep her busy and yeah, not bored. But in terms of daycare, we had to find an apartment first. Again, this was the main priority, was the apartment, because the daycares here are related to where you live. So if we want to send her to a certain daycare, we have to live in that neighborhood. And so it's really hard to gauge it that way because we don't know how to look for a good daycare here. We were advised on some good daycares up where some of the team live, but we kind of wanted to be closer to the city. We wanted to be in the city a bit more. So we've taken a real risk there, and we've moved into a neighborhood where no one's actually gone to that daycare, but it's the local one, it's the public one. And so I think it's free. Like, I think all of the kids have to go to daycare here from the age of 3. It's compulsory. So right. She'll be fitting into a public daycare system in the next month or so. Yep. And I think it works the same. Like, I think you go at say 9:30 and you pick her up from say 3:30. So she'll spend 6 hours at a daycare. I guess our only hope is that there's at least one English speaking teacher there, so that if she needs to communicate anything that she can, and we're really, I guess, gonna keep on top of that. And yeah, I really want her to have a good experience here, because she didn't choose any of this. God did, yeah. And so we, but she didn't really. And so I really want her to have a good experience and to really integrate into the Hungarian culture. So that's why we've chosen to send her to a public daycare and not a private Christian one, or an international one. Yeah, so that was a big decision for us, because you know, we're not sure how the public system works for education here yet. So yeah, we're trusting that's all going to work out in her favor. So
okay, well, just a couple of more questions before we let you guys go. You guys, thank you so much for your time. So what kind of foods are you missing? Are you missing here, in being in Hungary? What kind of foods do you miss the most from New Zealand?
My one's going to sound really silly, but just like the water and the pump drink bottles. Oh man, that stuff's so good. It's just so refreshing and clean. All the water over here is clean, but it just doesn't taste the same. I don't know. That's my thing.
Yeah, Glenn drinks a lot of water, so that probably is really important. I actually really miss salt and vinegar chips. There's like, right. Yeah, there is a salt and vinegar chip here, but it's not the same. It doesn't have the same kind of like bite to it. It's softer, and Vegemite. But I had a whinge on my blog. I was like, oh, no Vegemite. And then all of a sudden I had these offers of Vegemite being shipped over from New Zealand. And one of the team members went out and found one for me. I don't know where she went to find it, and it was quite expensive. It's quite expensive here. It's not like $4 or anything.
So you did get Vegemite?
I did get Vegemite, like literally 2 days later. I think she walked in with a pack of salt and vinegar chips and a jar of Vegemite, and it was so thoughtful. Like that's how looked after we are.
Oh, what an amazing team you guys have. That's incredible.
I know. It's the small things, honestly. It made such a big difference to our week, because that's all I have for breakfast is Vegemite on toast, and so we're trying to,
And some vinegar chips.
and so no. So yeah, I don't think I'm missing much else. Oh man, I know I'm not going to get a good hangi for 4 years or however long we're over here. I just know that, and so I'm not even going to try replicate it because I have no idea how to make that work. And I tried to photograph it for East West so that I could, I wanted to figure out how it works and see if I could do it, but I just don't think I can. So in 4 years' time, when we come back, I'm really going to go somewhere for a good hangi.
Oh, that sounds good. That sounds good. Well, tell us about like whenever I visit another country, I'm kind of famous for this. I'm always checking out the local Kai for Christians. So could you tell us about Kai for Christians there, aka KFC?
Well, for me, it was just a safe option because I know what it looks like. And yeah, it's in the mall here, and the salesperson spoke English. So I got some KFC on our first Sunday here, and it was so good. It's really good here. I really enjoy it. Yeah. And so I'm trying not to live off of it. There is like a different menu here at the KFC. Like, is it Poke Bowl? Poke? P-O-K-E. So it's basically like a rice and vegetables and then your KFC chicken on top. So it's like there's a diverse menu here for KFC. So you can kind of be healthy if you want to be.
And they also do like enchiladas.
Oh yeah.
KFC enchiladas.
Oh my gosh, so good.
Yeah.
But I just go for the old Wicked Wings option just because that's what I just love that stuff. So yeah, the KFC over here is really good. So if that's what's going to get you on the mission field,
Yeah, come
Hungary's
on.
a good place to come.
Well, that's the reason why we're going to come visit you guys in 2 years' time. It's just to try the KFC.
Oh, how heartfelt. So good.
Okay, just a couple more questions. Tell us, have you managed to enjoy like any of the local music or culture or cuisines? I know it's only been 2.5 weeks. It's probably too early, but have you any off chance you've noticed any or heard any?
In terms of culture, so last Friday they had their like national birthday, Independence Day, and so they had like a big military plane kind of display, as they had all these jet fighters flying over the city, attack helicopters, and just being in another country as they celebrate like their national birthday, and like just the what's the word?
Patriotism.
Yeah, that's the word. That they felt that was really really interesting. And,
Yeah, I think that there was an interesting part to that celebration also. It's so intertwined with Christianity. It was really interesting to see a public declaration of their Christianity, because we come from New Zealand, which has the heritage of having been Christian, but to come to a country that still publicly celebrates that Christian heritage was quite like culturally interesting for me, because I don't know, we just don't see public displays like that unless it comes from a church. But this was from, Parliament, and they basically had this part of the celebration at night with the fireworks where they had all these drones that were performing in certain patterns. And their last pattern that just turned round and round and round, it was just these drones with lights on, was like a big cross. So they were basically just really shouting out their heritage and their, because the birthday is also a celebration of their first king, who was crowned as a Catholic king. And he chose to be crowned under the Catholic, from what I'm gathering, under the Catholic Pope rather than choosing a Muslim heritage. And so they're really proud of that Christian heritage that they have. And so as a Christian sitting in the audience watching all this, that was quite moving for me, because we don't see that a lot in New Zealand anymore. And to know that they still need Jesus here, even though they're so patriotic about that, and even though they love their heritage, you still need, the Holy Spirit, and you still need people to come in with that current desire to do that. So we've experienced a bit of the culture, but we haven't really got around to the food yet. I'm sure we will as we adjust to the differences. And yeah, but music, not so much. Like there has been some music. It's usually like traditional. Like we went to the fountain there's an island in the middle of the river that everyone goes to. And there's these huge water fountains that play to music. And the music is all pretty traditional, Hungarian composers. And yeah, so I don't think we've had a really good full rounded experience of it yet.
I guess when you go to the mall and they just got like casual kind of pop music on.
Yeah.
It's all in Hungarian. And so, yeah, it's just.
Right.
Yeah.
So like, so when you listen to your favorite group, the Spice Girls, it's all in Hungarian?
To be fair, I haven't heard the Spice Girls here yet. I'm not sure why. It's usually
okay.
It's usually other things like Westlife.
Have you had an opportunity to go to church yet, or anything yet on a Sunday?
Yeah, we've been going to. So most of the team goes to a church in the middle of the city called Golgotha, which is the translation of Calvary. So it would be the equivalent of going to a church called Calvary. And it's quite a big one. And they do like so they do all their worship in Hungarian, but
awesome.
under the words, they have the English version. So you're singing Hungarian, but you know what you're singing, sort of. And if you weren't comfortable with the Hungarian, you could sing the English words, but you would sound different to everyone. And then every time the speaker goes up, like either the MC or the preacher, they will say a line or two, and then someone will translate it out loud. So you're kind of listening to a translated sermon. And the church service still only goes like an hour and a half. And so somehow they managed to do all their worship, all of their emceeing, and all of their preaching with translation in an hour and a half. And so it's really well run. Yeah. And they do a lot of community ministry that we've seen. So there's a lot of different like they work with some of the prostitutes in the streets of Budapest, but they also work with young adults, and they work with the Roma. So there's a lot of different ways that they're working in their community. And I think one of the things that we want to do is partner alongside what churches are already doing in their community and help in any way that we can. So this seems like a good church to start with, being that most of the team go there. And so when we go there on a Sunday, we're seeing familiar faces. I'm not sure if we'll be there long term, but we're open to that option too. It's a pretty good church, and we've loved it so far. So
yeah, I love it, the fact that there's the Hungarian language, because last thing you want to do is just go to an English church, and it's a good way to transition into the culture. So to actually hear the language, worship in the language, and it's awesome. And I guess your ultimate goal one day will be go to a fully immersed Hungarian service, and that's kind of like the ultimate goal for you guys. Could you, in closing, we're going to be wrapping up pretty shortly. Is there anything you can share to us that you can encourage us here in little old New Zealand? What God has been talking to you guys, and anything you can encourage us over here.
Well, on a very physical level, we're so proud of New Zealand and just what you're doing with your lockdown again, and with COVID, and from over here and seeing the approach over here. We're also grateful to not be in lockdown over here. But watching New Zealand and how seriously you take it, and how much you value the lives of your elderly and your at-risk people, we're so proud of that. And I don't know how to say that fully. We're just so proud watching you guys go through lockdown again, even though it's harder and you're questioning it, just the care that you're taking with your elderly and your vulnerable people. We just don't see that level of care anywhere else in the world anymore. So I just want to encourage you guys with that. I know it must be hard with kids, and we did the first lockdown, and even that was hard the first time. So I can't imagine second, third, fourth, depending if you live in Auckland or not. But from being a New Zealander over in Europe, we're so proud of that. And we really love the updates, the faux pas and all the that made me so homesick watching him screw up his words in front of the whole country. It was so great.
Not sure what you're talking about there, but anyway, we're stopping the spread.
I love that so much. It made us miss New Zealand. But on a spiritual level, I think like just the encouragement we'd have is that what the church is doing in New Zealand is not that far displaced from what the church around the world is doing. Like God is moving the same way everywhere. And so we might feel like we're in a small little island at the bottom of the world, but the way that God is using the church there and the way that we're sending missionaries out is the way that God's doing that everywhere around the world at the moment. So even though you guys might feel what you're doing is small, just supporting us coming out here, just the three of us, it's so in tune with what's happening around the world. And we're so grateful for how we're being supported to be here. It's a privilege to be in Hungary due to the support of, the church like yourselves and individuals who felt God lay it on their heart to support us. And yeah, we feel that privilege, and we also feel that burden a little bit, like, yeah, but we're so proud of the people behind us in the country that we come from, and don't think that what you're doing is so little. It's really big. Yeah. What, do you have anything? No.
Yeah, that's awesome. And thank you so much. Well, it's massive over here with the with COVID actually going on lockdown. But I know that Glenn, you've been under the weather, and we've heard you cough a couple of times on the stream. And tell us, do you have COVID or what happened?
Do you have COVID? We thought he had COVID.
Yeah, there was a possibility there. Like when they had this big national celebration on last Friday, I wanted to go into town to see these military planes. And so I walked to the bus stop, and the bus was packed. And I was like, nah, I'm not going to risk it. I'm going to walk. So I walked the whole way to the river, which was 4 or 5K, watched the planes, then turned around and walked home. That was on the Friday. Started feeling a little unwell on the Saturday afternoon. And then, Sunday was just like, full on man flu. Naomi went to the fireworks on the Friday night. She took the packed bus, took the packed metro, there and back, no illness at all. And so anyway, yesterday morning, we got a at-home COVID test kit. And so Naomi got the old cotton bud and rammed it up my nose.
I was just making sure that we got all the specimens we needed to get,
And so and then you put the cotton bud in this little kind of envelope thing and close it up and leave it on the table for 15 minutes. And 15 minutes later, it came back negative for COVID.
Positive for man flu.
So it's an instant test. So you find out straight away.
Yeah, find out in 15 minutes.
Yeah, and that's why I was so hardy with the bud, because I didn't want it to be a false positive and us to be. We have 4 team members who are traveling away on a plane in the next week, and I just did not want to be responsible for spreading it. So yeah. So we're proud to say that Glenn is not the carrier of COVID just yet.
Good. Thank you so much for sharing it with us. But in saying that, we're talking about the way that you guys have been supported. Well, if you're watching this stream, if you can support Naomi and Glenn, there are what do we say? Well, we love to say stuff like, why not sponsor a missionary? We're so used to sponsoring children overseas. How about sponsor a missionary? And so Glenn and Naomi are still looking for at least 12 people to sponsor them $25 a week, or 12, or is that right? 12 or maybe 24 people to sponsor them $12.50 a week. But tell you what, if you can get behind them or what they're doing, what's the best way that people can sponsor you guys, Naomi and Glenn?
Well, they can get in touch with us through, we have a website, thejohnstonjourney.com, or just flick us a message on Facebook. We're on the Elim page as well. So anyway, just get in touch any way that you think fit, and we'll send some details your way. But we're super grateful for all your support already.
Yeah.
So
Well, come on, guys. Please get behind this amazing couple, the three of them, actually, should I say, Naomi, Glenn, and little Mina. Get behind them. You know, if we, no matter, I'll tell you what, every cent counts. So if you can get behind them, sponsor a missionary. Even as we speak, another missionary waits. So that's okay. That's a little, I should do an ad or something like that. And saying that, what's your last words you'd like to say to everybody before we sign you guys off?
We just miss you all so much. We miss the humor. We miss the accent, the familiarities, but we love you guys so much, and we're so excited how the next 4 years is going to go. And thanks so much for keeping in touch and keeping interested. It makes us feel well loved.
Awesome. Yep. Thank you so much. Well, we're going to sign off now, and thank you so much for everyone taking the opportunity to listen in on Table Talk. I do have heard that we lost some pictures along the way, but just looking at my tech guys have been sending me messages saying that if you go back on YouTube, you should hopefully see a more completed interview with video as well as audio as well. So thank you to our tech team who've been working tirelessly behind, stressing out, getting it all on. Thank you so much, really appreciate it. And also, if you have an opportunity to get vaccinated, go do it. I rang up yesterday and I took a van load of young people, 5 of them, for drive-through vaccination, and they vaccinated all our kids in the car, shot them in the arm. So they've got little dart guns, and as you drive around, they shoot. No, they don't. They just stop off it. So get vaccinated, stay safe, and ka kite, everybody. And we see you all again for this Sunday, Church Online at 10:30. Follow the same link. God bless everybody.